Coming up, a quick launch to the International Space Station.
From the file of things we already knew, there's radiation on the way to Mars.
And on Mars, we found rats.
Squirrels.
No, they're rats.
Squirrels.
Plus, we're going to be talking about Planetary Resources and their Kickstarter campaign. All that and a whole lot more on this June 1st, 2013 edition of Spacevidcast Live. And here's a secret. I'm the 12th Doctor. And welcome to Spacevidcast Live, episode 6.15 for, whatever the date is. My name is Benjamin Higginbotham. With me, as always, the beautiful, lovely, wonderful, and talented Carrie Ann Higginbotham. We've got a ton of space news, so let's get straight into it, shall we? First up, we had a quick approach to the International Space Station of the next expedition crew. Here's some launch footage.
10 seconds, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And liftoff. Liftoff of Kara Nyberg, Fyodor Yashikin, and Luca Politano on a 6-hour ride to the International Space Station.
And unlike other approaches in the past where it takes several days for us to reach the space station aboard the Soyuz capsule, this one is done in several hours. Unfortunately, it doesn't give the astronauts quite enough time to actually get used to space, so there's potential space sickness there. But, you know, the benefit of being able to go straight to the International Space Station, not being stuck in that little tin can, I think far outweighs it. Oh, if we can mute that audio or stop the video, that would be awesome. Moving along, we've actually also got information we already know.
Yeah, so, hey, you may have heard, there's radiation on the way to Mars.
What? No way!
I know, like, in space, there's this invisible force
Called
radiation.
Well, that's not just unique to space. Curiosity's radiation detecting instrument, or RAD, on its way to Mars has in fact proven what we've known all along. Data is very much in line with Apollo and Skylab, and yes, you will get a higher dosage of radiation on your way to Mars. Now, everyone's making it sound like this is a lethal dose, and the media is making a huge deal out of it. Yes, it is a higher than normal dose. It could potentially shorten your lifespan, but it is not that much higher. It is not a lethal dose all at once.
No, it's
and you could potentially shield against it using something like a Bigelow Hab or
exactly.
something like that.
It's giving you slightly more than a 3% chance of possibly getting cancer.
Right. So there you go.
It
does. I mean, that's a much higher chance than had you not
gone,
but it's a lower chance than if you are a smoker. So that's actually a really great way to put that in line.
Yeah.
If you smoke, you have a higher chance of getting cancer than the radiation levels of you going to Mars. So there you go. We have found a rat on Mars. Check this out.
Squirrel.
It's a rat.
Squirrel.
So actually, I think it is a squirrel. I think it looks more like a squirrel when you look at the actual footage. So this, if you look at that picture right there, you can see that kind of object in the middle. That is a rock that happens to look like a squirrel. And if you thought that looked like a rat and or a squirrel, that is periodelia, and that is the tendency for the human brain to perceive animals or other familiar shapes in vague or random images. And it is not unique to Mars, although we have it happen so much on Mars. The conspiracy theorists love to use their brains to find shapes that they can actually relate to.
Apparently we found an elephant once.
And actually, if you search the internet, you'll find things like unicorn clouds here on Earth.
You found me. Somebody found me.
Really?
Yeah, on Mars once.
That is a normal condition of the human brain. Most humans will actually do that. They will try to find shapes with their eyes that they can recommend. That's how the brain interprets it. Doesn't mean that shape is actually there. It doesn't mean there's actually squirrel on Mars. It just means that the light is bouncing off the rock in such a way that makes it look like a squirrel. So if you have got friends that say NASA is covering stuff up, or that we sent squirrels there that was actually a real thing I read. Someone thought that we sent squirrels or rats to Mars to see how they would fare in the atmosphere.
Well, they died.
Yeah, exactly. That didn't happen either. There is no conspiracy. It is for realsies a rock, just like the Mars face, which is a pyramid. It's not. Oh man, I just made it worse.
Yep.
It's actually just a rock, kind of in a mountain-like structure.
There you go.
There, more mountain-like, not a pyramid.
Okay.
Oh man, I made it a lot worse.
Yeah, just stop now.
We like to rag on the Space Launch System quite a bit.
We do.
It's fun. It's an easy target because you have Aries and Constellation, which went the way of Aries and Constellation, and I don't know. I think it's only fair that we bring up some good news for the Space Launch System, actually highlighting some of the things that it's doing correctly. There's something called a PDR, Preliminary Design Review, and it's actually not showing any of the problems that Aries or Constellation show. We have just some animation of what kind of SLS will look like. You can just roll that on top of us. So there you go. There's a shot of the Space Launch System. It's got the boosters on the side and some of the existing legacy hardware. Legacy means old. But like I said, it's not showing the same problems that Aries was. There are a few technical issues with it. For example, they've got a problem with acoustics right now. Aereo acoustics, basically what happens at Mach speeds. And so what they're going to be doing is potentially changing the shape of the nose cone, and it actually looks more like a triangle. Well, right now it looks like a straight-on triangle. It would kind of be an angled triangle, potentially. But otherwise, it's well on its way in the process of actually getting certified, approved, and eventually potentially built. So last week we joked and said, what's more likely, Mars 1 or SLS? We both said Mars 1. In all real... SLS is starting to come along.
It is. It has more of an isosceles sort of triangular
there you go.
Cone to it.
Yeah, well, yeah.
As it were.
As it were.
So, yeah, no, I mean, if it keeps chugging along on this particular path that it's on, it very well could come to fruition and be totes for totes.
And the reason that's cool is that the Space Launch System is a super heavy lift rocket, or at the very least a very, very heavy lift rocket, that would be capable of bringing humans aboard something like Orion. Actually, that animation you saw at the end, most of the animation was with Orion spacecraft, and that's what will allow humans to explore deep space once more. It would allow us to go to Mars, go to the moon, go to an asteroid, stuff like that. Right now, we don't have a vehicle that could really do that. And Orion is kind of designed to allow us to get out there. It's still pretty small.
It is the Space Launch System. So
there you go. I realized in our wiki we actually have a story about cool places to get Lego spacecraft designs, and I just realized I never actually grabbed any screenshots of that. So I'm going to, in the show notes, give you the URL. It's actually really cool. I found this on Reddit r/space, I think it was, and it's a guy who created a Lego model of Dragon, speaking of spacecraft, and it looked really cool, and I kind of followed it around, and I found out he actually has designs
a bunch of these.
Yeah, he has a bunch of these, and he has designs that you can get, and you can actually go buy the bricks and build other spacecraft. He's working on making a design for the Dragon right now. Apparently it's a little weak, so I will leave that in the show notes for you guys so you can go play with Legos, because I know Legos are fun. Now, before we go to break, we have brought Doug Messier from Parabolic Archon, who is recently at the International Space Development Conference and also lives in Mojave, where a lot of new space is going on. Doug, welcome to the show. And so what happened at the conference and in Mojave?
Well, the conference was a lot of fun. There were 7 tracks going on, so a lot of things to hear. Had some logistical problems with badges. It took like 3 days to get the stinking badges we needed. And Buzz Aldrin was there trashing your boss.
Yeah, all right.
Which was Buzz was saying that he was against Elon landing this thing on water, and apparently had not heard of what you guys are doing to try to land it on
land.
On land.
Mm-hmm.
Landing it on land. That's what we're gonna do. And so as for Mojave, White Knight 2 was flying around the last couple of days on Thursday and Friday. And if the rumors around Mojave are true, they will be doing another test flight probably in early June. Also, Maston was flying around this week. They were doing some tether tests on Friday, so that's interesting. And they continue, I think they also did a untethered test recently and did some video for the Mojave Air and Spaceport that they're using for their promotional activities. So that's what's happening in Mojave. Mojave's also continues to buzz over a test that Scale Composites did a couple weeks ago on their engine. They blew out the rocket casing and the nozzle, maybe 25 or 30 feet away from the test stand, and did some damage to the test rig. According to Scaled, that was all planned. So there's some skepticism in Mojave about whether that's true.
So they planned to blow an engine 30 feet away from the test stand?
They were testing a non-flight experimental engine that was rigged to fail, according to what they put out a couple of days later.
All right.
And well, not everybody believes that, so we'll have to see. I'm trying to get some more information on it.
There is always the chance that they actually did want it to fail. You learn a lot from failures, from overexerting the engine and seeing what it can do. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, they did a good job with overexerting the engine. So
Awesome. Thank you, Doug, so much for joining us. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the Planetary Resources Kickstarter campaign. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Star stuff, pondering the stars. We humans have always dreamed of gazing upon far-flung galaxies, alien solar systems, and even into stars themselves. And yet, until now, gaining access to space to explore the cosmos has been astronomically expensive. Enter Planetary Resources, a team of passionate, extraordinary individuals focused on changing all of that by democratizing the exploration of space. Planetary is able to make this happen on the back of exponentially growing technologies that are redefining what becomes possible, allowing technologists to do what only huge corporations and governments could do mere decades ago. Planetary was founded by XPRIZE and Singularity University founder Peter Diamandis and Space Adventure CEO Eric Anderson as a venture focused on mining the asteroids for resources. The company's technology is being designed by an elite engineering team who earlier in their career were lead engineers designing and building JPL's Spirit, Opportunity, and Curiosity rovers. The company has been speaking with the visionary Museum of Flight led by President Doug King and the Planetary Society led by Bill Nye. Everyone's goal? Open the space frontier. Planetary wants to get this technology into the hands of everyone. And as it turns out, they found a way to do exactly that on Kickstarter. While Planetary Resources has invested heavily to design and build its own fleet of high-powered space telescopes to search for asteroids, they are also looking to launch an extra, enhanced copy and make it available as the world's first crowd-funded space telescope to be controlled directly by the public. Arcid 100. A piece of this can be yours. What can you do with this, you may ask? Well, the aim of this project is threefold. First, you can use the Arcid Space Telescope for education and inspiration to elicit a sense of cosmic awe and expand people's minds, empowering teachers, students, and museums as never before with access to technology today that we couldn't even dream about a decade ago. Second, you can use the Arcid 100 to take dazzling photos of the universe, outer space, or of yourself soaring above our planet. Third, you can participate in next-level citizen science, explore, dazzle, design your own experiments, or donate your telescope time to MIT researchers looking for alien planets around distant stars. We're putting all the control in your hands. We want you involved. Imagine the thrill of participating in such a search for answers. We all have the capacity to make a dent in the universe. We've got the technology, friends. Where we go with it, what we do with it, is now up to you. Let's achieve the impossible.
Mike? I think that's a pretty inspirational video for Planetary Resources and everything that they've got going on. It's going to be a lot of fun to see where the Kickstarter... Let me call it that Kickstarter campaign. Do you have it handy?
Yeah, with 6,271 backers, they are at $627,000, $879. I can't talk.
3 days in.
Yeah,
So
we have 29 days to go, and just under $400,000 to accrue. It sounds pretty reasonable to me in every way.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, actually, we were talking before the show, and I think that Planetary Resources may be able to, if they put a stretch goal out there, they may be able to double their initial asking of $1 million and possibly get $2 million. So we've been talking a lot in these Season 6 shows about crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, kind of the do-it-yourself space program, as it were. And Planetary Resources, it looks to be, is going to be a smashing success. I see it has not been slowing down, right? Sometimes you see a Kickstarter campaign go, and then it kind of slows after a little bit, and then it kind of just... But this campaign is not. I expect they will be at $1 million by the end of the week.
Yeah.
Or somewhere there within. So clearly there is a potential for programs. And we have been asking in previous episodes, can you do it? So now I think this shows that yes, you can do it. So I think what I'd like to say is, in this episode, what is it that they're doing correctly, and how can others do something like this? How can citizens create their own space programs?
Right.
Right?
Well, I mean, they are. I think they hit a number of really great points. One is that, again, they already have the hardware. Right? They're not saying, hey, help us build something that might be cool someday. This is like, no. This is what we're doing, guys. Here it is.
Right.
Ta-da! That's one, right? It's not vaporware, essentially. Number two is they're giving it back to the people, if you will, right? It's like, and you can have your picture on it, and you can look at whatever you want on it. This is for you. This is for the schools. This is for education. This is for all of these other, really awesome purposes, inspiration, and all of that stuff, as opposed to, cool, because once this is backed, we're just going to take it over here, and you're never going to see it again. That's a whole different ball game. 3, they have many different levels that you can enter in at any given point in time, and they're all awesome stuff. It's not one of these levels is like, and you get a sticker for $100, right?
Right.
4, if I may.
Well, let's talk about their levels for a moment,
Sure.
right? So the level starts at $10.
Yes.
And it gets
Well, technically, it starts at $1. Everything on Kickstarter, if you want to back it, you can put in just $1, and then the thanks and what have you start at $10.
Okay, you're
Does
right.
that help?
You're absolutely right. So the kickbacks start at $10.
Yes.
But you can put in $1 if you want.
Yes.
So at $10, you actually get access to their videos, updates, stuff like that. And then you've got 25, 39, 65, 99, 200, 450, 650, 1,000, 1,750, 2,500, 5,000, different 5,000, a $10,000 backing
10,000
area.
is the highest pledge, and they already have 17 people who've backed them at that price.
Actually, if SpaceVidcast could afford to give them $10,000, we would totally do that.
Absolutely.
I would give them. I absolutely believe in what they're doing. I'd give them as much money as
One of
we
the other great
could.
things is that with all of the I keep saying prizes, but with the kickbacks, I suppose, they have aligned themselves with another really great name and powerful entity, the Planetary Society.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So amazing stuff. So I forget exactly which one it is. I think it's right around the $100, $200 one. You start getting a free 1-year membership to Planetary Society, which is a really great organization. They're doing a lot of amazing things. Their magazine that comes out is really also really great. And one of the other things on top of all of this other fun stuff is, say, you want to pledge like $39, but you really don't want to jump up to like the $99 one, right? Maybe $65 really isn't kind of getting you. But you kind of want that t-shirt, and that maybe that's not at the price point that you're at. You can add on extra gifts, essentially, that are still, the money is still going towards them. They're still getting the money part of it, and then you're getting an awesome t-shirt, or you're getting an awesome, there's a bunch of different stuff on there. So these pledge add-ons are also just really fantastic. The entire website is absolutely gorgeous. It's obviously very well thought out. It's aimed at the correct kind of people who are interested in this sort of thing. Even if you're only sort of mildly interested, they have wonderful different kinds of infographics on there. They show you the different pledge levels. Great names are backing the entire project, besides all of the wonderful people that are associated with Planetary Resources already. You've got Planetary Society, you've got Jason Silva, who has Brain Games on Nat Geo that's going on right now. All of these people coming together, it's like the perfect storm of perfect science-iness.
But you can't replicate a perfect storm every time, right?
No,
so
you can't.
We've got a viewer out there. I know we've got rocket scientists that watch the show, and I know that some of these rocket scientists have brilliant ideas as to what's going on. I know that there are some people that are not rocket scientists, like myself, that are very passionate about space and would like to do anything they can to help advance space forward. And involves a lot more than just talking about space, right? It involves doing things in space.
Yeah.
We can talk about it all day long, but it doesn't actually push us forward. So, not everyone's going to be able to replicate all of these different things. So if you had to whittle down the things that are things that they can replicate, right? Not everyone's going to be able to go to Planetary Society and say, "Hey, we want to give out memberships." Maybe everyone can, but as an example, right? Not everyone's going to be able to get. People who star on Discovery Channel and Bill Nye the Science Guy and a bunch of other.
Sure.
That's not something that's replicatable.
Right.
But what is replicatable? Giving advice to people who want to start a space program and want to make it successful on Kickstarter, what would you think the 3 things are that they need to do to successfully raise funds in their Kickstarter campaign?
I think you have to narrow down your elevator pitch, and that's got to be front and foremost on your Kickstarter or other variation page.
So PRI did their video.
They've got the video, and right underneath it, big bold letters, the first publicly accessible space telescope. There it is. 1 sentence. I totally get it. I understand. Now I see, and it all makes sense to me, right? It's very clearly stated. There's no wish-washy, what have you. You've got to have the goals, the pledges that are accessible. The price points that are accessible, $10 is maybe a lot for some people, starving college student, but for 2 people who have no kids, both working, $10 really isn't a whole lot. You've got to have a couple of different pledges in there, and then those sort of slightly out there pledge goals,
Sure.
right? The $5,000s, the $10,000, depending on how much money, of course, you're trying to get. And you've got to have it beautiful, but I love these pledge add-ons. I think that is so brilliant, so brilliant. Sometimes I don't always want to donate $100, but I really want that T-shirt, and maybe I'm willing to spend $30 for that T-shirt, as well as give in a $10 pledge goal.
But I don't think it's the pledge goal itself. I think what you're really highlighting there is that it's something that people kind of want.
Yeah, it's got to be something. Yes, I apologize.
But it doesn't have to actually be. And I actually think at the last Space, not the last Space Up, one of the Space Up San Diego last one, I think Chris Radcliffe, who is in the chat room right now, brought up a very interesting point. Very good point is it doesn't have to be stuff that costs you money. I think that's actually going to be what's not going to just make a successful Kickstarter campaign for space, but also a successful program after you get your money. Because let's say you're selling T-shirts that cost you $20 and you only get $10 back, less whatever Kickstarter is going to take. That's only $5 out of 30. Right, or whatever it is.
You're right, and in this case, they actually have a camera that's on board, so you can get your picture on with the Earth in the background.
Right. So on Arcade, there's a screen and a camera looking down, and they can upload images to the screen, and then so they've already got the hardware, so that doesn't really cost them anything more.
Doesn't cost them anything else.
The first thing for $10, all they're doing is sending you photo updates and video updates of what's going on, so you can see what's happening. That doesn't cost them anything.
Nothing.
Right?
It's brilliant.
So at $25, that's where you get that digital selfie in space. That doesn't cost them anything. And I think that might be one of the big keys to success is you have to be clear and concise in what you're doing, but you also have to make sure that the prizes that you have, the motivation for the people is something that they want, but also it doesn't have to be something that costs you lots of money. Everyone navigates toward T-shirts and hats and stuff like that.
Right.
Doesn't need to be that.
No,
especially in space, right? I mean, sure, it can be some of that, but maybe that's, like you said, a pledge add-on. You can add on a T-shirt.
Right.
Because those are going to cost you a lot more money, but you're giving them access, right? Maybe one of the pledge levels is they get access to walk around your mission control, whatever it if Spacevidcast were doing something, maybe it's you get to watch and attend a show live, which is something that not a lot of people get to do today.
Yeah,
I'd like to fix that. So anyhow, what do you think? So we're in the past we talked about is this possible? I think we're showing that this is possible. Now, is this replicatable, or is this just a one-off success with Planetary Resources? We've seen tons of these things go by that were very unsuccessful, and we're 3 days into this one, and it's just going like gangbusters. So what do you think? Is this a one-off thing, or is this something that will be replicatable inside of the space industry? We're specifically focusing on space. And if it is replicatable, what are the types of things that you think are going to be out there from a community-driven, kick-started campaign? And maybe not Kickstarter, maybe Indiegogo.
Right,
pick something else
along those lines.
Right, but what are some of these programs that you think are going to be possible through crowdfunding? One thing that people have said is, well, I'll crowdfund NASA. Well, no, you won't. Yeah, you're right. You're not gonna crowdfund $20 billion, at least not today. I mean,
Right.
That's not going to happen. Realistically, that's not a real thing. But can you find a small sliver of what they do and crowdfund that? I mean, the Arcade is kind of one of those small slivers. So anyhow, leave your comments on YouTube. We always prefer your comments on spacevidcast.com. And we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the comments from last week's show when we were talking about science fact and science fiction and how they correspond to each other. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Look into her face, determination in her eyes. She won't give up or quit or fall for little fashion lies. Filled with awesome expectation, this girl's a fascination. And nothing in her way will keep her from her destination. Cause she's fire walking, she's fire walking. When it's hot, she keeps on moving, through the heat keeps on improving. Yeah, she's fire walking, she's fire walking to be free.
And before we get into comments from the last show we did, I did want to point out that at spacevidcast.com/posters, you can get our inspirational poster series. We've got 2 of them up right now. The artist is working on a 3rd. We realize they're hard on your inkjet printer, but we're working on that. Actually, someone had commented and said, why don't you just get black paper and then you can print the white ink? There's no white ink. That's why you can't do that. So it will be hard on your inkjet printer. We know. We'll work on a different series. But they're still really cool posters. You can download. Soon we'll have an editable version of both of the posters. But you can also buy the posters from the artist. I think they're $20 a piece. And the prints are absolutely gorgeous. They don't hurt your printer at all at that point. And you can hang them. I mean, they are frameable prints. They look stunning, absolutely stunning, and they're neat because they're factual. They've got information. The first one has a little bit of information about Mount. Yep, exactly. On Mars, the tallest mountain in the solar system, and the next one is talking about space rocks, comets, asteroids, so forth and so on. And they got these great little text boxes at the bottom that tell you a little bit about it and kind of get you interested in stuff. So spacevidcast.com/posters for that. There were a few comments that happened in the chat room. Random. Mine is cut off. We'll just say random.
It's Random Finn.
Oh, great. So Random Finn said, I feel that many Kickstarters fail because they haven't gathered enough following, enough pre-hand information of the thing they're going for, and they misestimate public interest and botch the rewards. I think the rewards are extremely important in understanding what people want, right? Because they're not going to sit there and they don't sit there wanting nothing more than you to succeed, right? They want something in return. So getting those rewards correct, but then not, I think that's a really important part. Something of value.
Right, exactly.
Anyhow, yeah. So let's go ahead and take a peek at some of the comments from last week's show. This one comes from, a longtime viewer, U5KO. Man, he's been here since, I think, the beginning.
Forever.
So, yeah, really long-time viewer. It says...
Still hates us.
No, it still hates us. This is in regards to science fact and science fiction. It's better to be inspired and disappointed than the alternative. Leonardo dreamed of flying machines centuries too early. I think history grants him vindication. Sci-fi is an intellectual crystallization of some of the more ambitious aspirations that humanity holds. I feel sorry for anyone who says that it's a bad thing. So he's saying that science fiction is a good thing, and that it just kind of gives you something to aspire to. And I think that's true. I had to play bad cop last week. I'm all for science fiction, right? I'm a sci-fi nerd. I think it's awesome. I'm inspired by sci-fi. I think it's great. But yeah, some people are like, nah.
We have one of those comments a little bit later too.
We do. This is from WBA1. Warner Brothers A1? I don't know. I have no idea what that stands for. Yes, I believe science fiction does inspire eventual science fact. We've all been inspired by the Star Trek, Star Wars, Kubrick, and other great sci-fi of the last 50 years. That's funny. He uses it. So Star Trek, Star Wars, and Kubrick. So Kubrick being Stanley Kubrick, who did 2001: A Space Odyssey. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know if people knew that. All right. Today's dreams and fiction does change in tomorrow's fact. Where would Werner von Braun and Robert Goddard get their vision, if not Jules Verne, the sci-fi writers of the teens, 20s, and 30s? So, yeah, I mean, I guess I can't comment to the inspiration of someone like von Braun, who basically is the father of modern rocketry. He built the Saturn V rocket, the only rocket to send humans to the moon, right? That's his legacy, kind of a big one. I don't know where he got his inspiration. I know he did actually work with people like Walt Disney. He's actually seen on screen with Walt, trying to inspire other people.
Exactly.
But he did that with sci-fact.
He
did that with forward-looking sci-fact.
There you go.
How about that? It wasn't science fiction, but it wasn't built yet. So does that make it science fiction or fact?
Well, I suppose. I think the key part of science fiction is the imagination, right? Your journey into imagination that allows you to say, okay, well, this is what we know, this is what we have, this is what could be in the future, and that does kind of straddle between science fact and science fiction. But if you weren't allowed to even hypothesize about that, only stick with the facts and what you know, and because we can't do that now, we for sure are not going to be able to do that in 50 years, then you could stifle creativity. That's my argument.
Law Dog says, but bad sci-fi is just bad.
Well, yeah. I don't.
Actually, SVCer65 said, how about a Kickstarter to fund someone buying some space on the upcoming Falcon Heavy test launch? I think we're going to start to see some of that stuff. Kickstarter campaigns that are trying to pool together so you can get multiple nanosats on a single maybe Falcon 9 or Falcon Heavy launch or Delta IV or whatever it might be. I've actually considered doing a Kickstarter to buy land outside of major launch sites like Vandenberg outside of the Cape, where you can hold tweet-ups for every single launch. So you've got the land, but then you've also got infrastructure there for bandwidth, for power, for a facility to protect you from the insane humidity in Florida, and then the downpour for an hour when it rains on
Insects,
you. Exactly. So you have this nice spot, and then the place would be a really nice spot. So right from there, you can watch the event take full live, have live links into NASA. Same thing out at Vandenberg, stuff like that. I think that'd be a really cool thing. And if anyone thinks that's a really good idea and like to run with it, there's an idea. Have fun. I think it's a really.
There you go.
I think it's a good idea because my idea. All right, where were we? Let's see here. That was WA1. So Corkspin, another longtime viewer, first time caller. No, actually, he's been on many times. Yeah. I think that science fiction does help science fact. So pretty much everyone thinks science fiction helps science fact. Yeah. Although it really takes a little while to catch up. I think about things like Datapads and Asimov's Foundation trilogy, which also mentioned blasters, which haven't happened yet. Asimov's Robot and the Three Laws of Robotics, Clark's science fact paper on satellites with geocentric orbits, Verne's Atomic Submarine, Star Trek communicators, which are smartphones that seem to have surpassed, so forth and so on. Absolutely. And there is some science fiction. Actually, it's an interesting point, right? So, like the Star Trek communicator, we've long surpassed that technology. So there are times when science fiction just gets it wrong, and we actually kind of jettison off over here, but where we go is way better than anything science fiction ever could have imagined. Yeah. Right? So that's not a bad thing. I think that's a good thing. And maybe that was inspired. Like you brought up the tricorders. Yep. Right? That was inspired by science fiction, straight up inspired by science fiction. But, I don't think an iPhone was inspired by science fiction per se. Not necessarily. Right? It was a revolution of the existing phone design that made a lot of sense. Yeah. But I haven't seen an iPhone on a sci-fi show ever before, anything like that. Right. So. Here's an issue with this is from Jim Prower. Here's an issue with taking the sci-fi stuff too seriously. It sells the general public short. Ooh, is that not? Did I not add that in? You don't have a thing, do you?
Apparently no.
Well, we're going to talk about it anyhow. You're not going to get a graphic.
He goes on to say, yes, we joke about futuristic views in the past, but it's silly to actually believe it. We're not as sheepish as one might think, and that kind of goes back to everyone says, the year is 2013, and where's my flying cars?
Where's my flying car? Actually, wait. We have flying cars.
Well, yeah, but I mean, not like the Jetsons, not like Back to the Future, all of those sort of things. And I think to a certain extent, there is something to be said for that idea that, you think too futuristically or too advanced in some ways. And, the movie, The Space Odyssey 2001, right?
2001, A Space Odyssey, yes.
Fine. But in 2001, supposedly, we were already living in space, all of those sorts of things, right? And so when 2001, the actual year came around, we're bazillion people really super disappointed that we weren't living in space in the same fashion that was shown in the movie?
No, but it is used as a thing to point at and being like, why didn't we make it there? We
Right.
should have made it to there by now. You know, we thought that we really thought we were going to have bases on the moon. And
Sure, blah, 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 naysayers. Just make it happen now then. That's what I say.
So, I have no idea how to say
I
your
don't know
username,
either.
says, at SpaceVidcast, iPad is a brand name, so please call that device and similar ones tablet. No. That's insane. I brought that up just to say no. I brought that into the show to be like, You know, the beautiful thing about Space Vidcast is we are not a broadcast television show, so we do not have to. We choose to get rid of the logos on the back of our computers because it drove me crazy, but we don't have to. And so we can mention brand names, we can mention other stuff.
Well, the thing is that when you picked it up, you said, and this happens to be an iPad, which it happens to be.
It is an iPad. It's for realsies iPad, and if I had something else, I would have mentioned what else I had there, but, you know, it was an iPad. It still is an iPad, and there you go. It is what it is. So, no, I will call things by what they are. I think it actually makes things simpler, right? We try not to use acronyms on the show.
Right.
And when we do use an acronym, we make sure to spell it out as best we can whenever we can. Like I use PRI, but earlier we had said Planetary Resources. You know, make sure that we correlate the two. SLS, Space Launch System, stuff like that. Same thing goes for stuff like an iPad. I mean, tablet you kind of understand, but most people understand what iPad is easier than tablet. So we're going to use whatever language conveys the message the best to you guys, as it were. All right. That is our show for this week. Stay with us if you're watching live. After Dark is up next. If you're not watching live and would like to watch After Dark, you can. After Dark is part of our SpaceVidcast Epic program. Epic is available for $10 a month or $100 a year, and it is what helps fund the show. Instead of SpaceVidcast doing Kickstarter campaigns every year, we actually get advertising revenue and we get subscriber revenue through SpaceVidcast Epic. It is what allows us to buy the equipment necessary to produce the show. It is what helps pay for us to go to special events. And without that, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. So please consider signing up for SpaceVidcast Epic at spacevidcast.com/epic, and again, that's $10 a month or $100 a year. You can cancel at any time. Try it out, and you don't just get After Dark. You get AIAA meetings. There were some LA Space Lawn meetings from when they were doing those. Other meetings too. Space Ups. We've got Space Ups in there.
Well, anytime we had an interview with somebody and they were joining us for After Dark, all of those things are available. So it's extended interviews.
There
as
is
well.
a great. If you guys have to After Dark, there is a fantastic After Dark with from Eyes on the Solar System.
Doug Ellison.
Doug Ellison. I'm like, Doug Messier. I'm like, no. Doug Ellison. Go back into our archives and watch if you haven't already, watch the After Dark with Doug Ellison. That was a great After Dark episode. So, since I think season 2, we've had After Dark episodes. So you get gigs and gigs and gigs and gigs and gigs of extra content, only available to the hardcore space nerds who sign up for Space Vidcast Epic. And for all of our Epic subscribers, thank you very much for making that happen and helping to fund the show. On that note, we're going to go into our close and come back into Space Vidcast After Dark. We'd like to thank you guys so much for watching. See you next week.
% chance of possibly getting cancer.
Right. So there you go. It does. I mean, that's a much higher chance than had you not
gone,
but it's a lower chance than if you are a smoker. So that's actually a really great way to put that in line.
Yeah.
If you smoke, you have a higher chance of getting cancer than the radiation levels of you going to Mars. So there you go. We have found a rat on Mars. Check this out.
Squirrel.
It's a rat.
Squirrel.
So actually, I think it is a squirrel. I think it looks more like a squirrel when you look at the actual footage. So this, if you look at that picture right there, you can see that kind of object in the middle. That is a rock that happens to look like a squirrel. And if you thought that looked like a rat and or a squirrel, that is...
Karen Nyberg, Fyodor Yashikin, and Luca Pomitano on a 6-hour ride to the International Space Station.
And unlike other approaches in the past where it takes several days for us to reach the space station aboard the Soyuz capsule, this one is done in several hours. Unfortunately, it doesn't give the astronauts quite enough time to actually get used to space, so there's potential space sickness there. But, you know, the benefit of being able to go straight to the International Space Station, not being stuck in that little tin can, I think far outweighs it. Oh, if we can mute that audio or stop the video, that would be awesome. Moving along, we've actually also got information we already know.
Yeah, so, hey, you may have heard, there's radiation.
Coming up, a quick launch to the International Space Station.
From in the file of things we already knew, there's radiation on the way to Mars.
And on Mars, we found rats.
Squirrels.
No, they're rats.
Squirrels.
Plus, we're going to be talking about Planetary Resources and their Kickstarter campaign. All that and a whole lot more on this June 1st, 2013 edition of Spacevidcast Live. And here's a secret. I'm the 12th Doctor.
Radiation on the way to Mars.
What? No way!
I know. Like, in space, there's this invisible force
Called
radiation.
Well, that's not just unique to space. Curiosity's radiation detecting instrument, or RAD, on its way to Mars has in fact proven what we've known all along. Data is very much in line with Apollo and Skylab, and yes, you will get a higher dosage of radiation on your way to Mars. Now, everyone's making it sound like this is a lethal dose, and the media is making a huge deal out of it. Yes, it is a higher than normal dose. It could potentially shorten your lifespan, but it is not that much higher. It is not a lethal dose all at once.
No, it's
and you could potentially shield against it using something like a Bigelow Hab or
exactly.
something like that.
It's giving you slightly more than a 3.
Private space station.
And welcome to Space Vidcast Live, episode 6.15 for, whatever the date is. My name is Benjamin Higginbotham. With me, as always, the beautiful, lovely, wonderful, and talented Carrie Ann Higginbotham. We've got a ton of space news, so let's get straight into it, shall we? First up, we had a quick approach to the International Space Station of the next expedition crew. Here's some launch footage.
10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And liftoff. Liftoff.